Hello and welcome to one more panel discussion of Manifest of the Pharma and the Healthcare Marketing section. The topic today we have for us is are we really putting the patient first? And to discuss that we have with us Debjani Ghosh and Malay Dikshit. Debjani has spent about a decade in pharma and medical device marketing with J&J Medical Devices. A very seasoned marketing professional, thinks very strategically. Malay is a strange person who's been the Chief Marketing Officer of Tata Sky, spent time in consumer and mainline marketing, and then come into healthcare and dental device marketing with his own startup, Piscium, which has in fact a global first patent, is making good waves in India and across the world. So welcome both of you, great to have you on board. The first question we have is, in the pharma and the healthcare industry, we're often accused of, talking patient, but we don't always put them first while we're making our marketing plans. What do you think of the accusation? Maybe Debjani, you first.
Yeah, it's interesting that you asked somebody from J&J this question first, because we have something called as a J&J credo, which always ensures that you're supposed to be putting the patient at the center of anything that we do. So honestly, if you ask me, as a marketer, in the medtech industry, right? So you have three kinds of customers. So you have the patient, you have the doctor or the surgeon who's using your product, and you have a sales team who's actually going to be then selling it, right? So as a marketer, these are my three customers. And what's common between the doctor and obviously our own team is that if something doesn't work for the patient, it doesn't work for the other two. Okay? So unless a product works for the patient, it cannot work for the doctor, and it most certainly cannot work for the organization either. So in all honesty, I do feel that we do put patient at the center when we're doing our marketing. Then the other aspect of the products that, and because I come from a med tech and a med devices industry, is really how the product interacts with the patient and how the product interacts with the doctor, just in terms of how easy it is for the doctor to use it. But at the end of the day, unless the first part is solved for, there absolutely is no point in making something easy to use for the doctor, but it's not solving for the patient. So honestly speaking, I think products by nature themselves in itself will also solve for the patient. And as a result, no customer of mine is going to use a product if it doesn't solve for the patient. So I think patient still in a lot of ways just remains at the heart of marketing.
That's very good. And Malay, for you, what have you seen?
I see, I operate out of a different context, which is the dental space. And if you aren't innovating something, if you're just reverse engineering or trading with something, you do not get the customer centricity, whether it's a doctor or a patient or just about anything. It's about price and competition and just somebody buy my product. That's what you do. And I think, I feel this is pretty much the right scenario where not a majority of companies have too much of a consideration of patient centricity. Whereas people who innovate, companies like J&J, company like Piscium, we innovate our own products, we are compelled to think about the patient. Otherwise, we cannot have a product. Right from not just the sales team, right from the design team, right from the quality checks, right from the accountant. You need to train just about everybody to say why you are doing particular thing, and then it goes to the sales guy and you train the sales guy. It's like, this is an innovation, this is meant for so and so, this is about better patient prognosis, this is a design meant for better procedures, and please go and sell these sell these items, sell these innovations. That's when it becomes really patient centric. So I would summarize saying, if the country turns innovative and offers not just reverse engineered or imported products, has its own innovations, companies innovate on their own, it will automatically shift into a customer centric or a patient centric approach, because there is no choice to that when you innovate a product.
And it's good to hear you say that, because the market that you operate in, dental consumables is actually one of the toughest and can sometimes be the most non-patient centric market, because doctors are more worried about the cost of the product, etc. So when you are, and therefore when dentists have to pay a premium for your innovation, what are the challenges that you face in getting them to think patient first?
Actually, if you explain to them the merits of an innovation, of what it does to the patient, using this particular dental burr gives you a better patient prognosis. If you use a particular technology of a nanodiamond burr, you have better heat dissipation and hence better patient prognosis and such features. When you go features based selling or features based marketing, dentists are pretty receptive to that, because they understand patients, they want their practice to be big, they want more patients to come in. So they are pretty receptive. So the challenge just lies in, as I said, continuously training and keeping that culture on, that this is about patients, this is about patients. This product is designed so that some benefit will come to the patient. The moment the sales team or the QC guys or the design guys start understanding this, or it's imbibed into them, then then it becomes automatic. Then the challenge doesn't remain. If on some day you are in a haste and you have not been able to train your people for 3 months or 4 months, you start seeing the downsides.
And the doctor pushing back.
Yeah, and if I may add, there are also a lot of hidden costs as well, right? So I think one, you look at the cost of using a particular technology or a particular product, right? But it's also the cost of not using it. Okay, so what happens if I use a lesser technology, or if I use a product which does not give me these features? There could be complications, right? So there's complication management, then there's if there's surgery, there could be readmission, etc. So there are a lot of the hidden costs which are not apparent to someone when they're weighing it versus the cost of a product. So it's not just about saying, okay, I'm going to be spending X amount of rupees at this point in time, but if I don't do this, right, then what is then therefore the additional cost that I may have to incur as well? So it's not just about being able to pay premium for the technology up front, but it's also what is the entire therapy or the entire treatment, right? What are you then saving by paying a premium at one particular stage of treatment?
Absolutely, and sometimes that's a big challenge, because it also happens that especially in consumable devices or material, that the doctor or the dentist or the surgeon is not paying for it, but the patient pays for those add-on costs, and therefore that impact of how it is important from the long term for doctors or dentists is very important. But tell me, so the sales team, that's always a challenge, because what happens is, and in both your cases I see that, because their primary customer is a doctor, a lot of their KPIs, etc., come from a doctor perspective. The revenues are driven by doctors or dentists. What is the biggest challenge that we face in getting them to think patient first?
So if you ask me, I honestly don't think it's a big challenge to get the patients to think, the sales team to think patients first. See, as a marketer, I certainly believe, especially in our industry, which is medtech, the sales team is a big customer for the marketer, because unless I'm able to convince the sales team why a product is good, that product is not going to sell. Because I don't have any other or very limited other vehicles of communication. I'm not an FMCG company where I can do print and media and all of those kind of things. I'm not permitted to do that. So I think it's very crucial that the sales team understands the why behind each of the product, and the why behind every product always comes down to the patient. Because at the end of the day, even if the sales team wants to make a sale, the doctor is also going to be looking at how it's going to be beneficial to the patient. So it's a no-brainer. The sales team just has to be able to understand that. Things that work for us, I think one of the things which is, and I think being in J&J, it's easier, because in general, most of the things around us are very patient-centric. So I think the culture of your organization is such that you don't have to make a very extra effort to get the sales team to think patient first. What you do have to get the sales team to really think about is, don't sell the feature, but sell the benefit of the product. But I can go and say that there are XYZ features that my product has, but unless I'm able to communicate how does that translate into a patient benefit, the doctor is not really, he's just listening features, he's not listening something of value to him or her. So which is what the challenge over us is, not really to get the sales team to think patient first, it's just being able to sell the benefit rather than the feature of the product. And I feel that's the bigger challenge that we have.
Well, Debjani was talking about what's easy in J&J, where exactly the trigger points, which made me so jealous thinking about myself as a startup. And that's company. Absolutely, that's a luxury. But what the challenges that we face as a small startup is that you need to be very, yes, training, yes, talking about product and what it does for the customer, for the patient, rather than feature based. All that is hygiene actually. But I found a very simple way to say what does my product do with the doctor. So I tell my sales guys in a very simple way, you or this product that we are selling are the support staff, like a nurse or the operation theatre support staff for the doctor. The patient has come to the doctor and you are helping out the doctor, you are helping out the dentist, and your product is playing the role of a support staff over there. And that's the kind of response, that's the kind of respect, that's the kind of positioning that your product should be when you're presenting your product to the dentist. That's one small differentiator which takes minimal amount of training time. In half an hour you can explain this concept or even less. Such anecdotal collections help me train these guys to patient centricity in a very fast and a crisp way.
So if I may add, when we joined J&J, so I remember when we joined as a part of our induction, we were told very similar stories by those who were much senior to us, right, of about how they really made a difference to patient lives. So very similar to what you're doing. I think that's also a part of the induction that we do, right? I think the idea is to convey to the salesperson that you are not selling a product, but you are actually in a way enabling the doctor make a difference to a patient's life, right? So, and I think that also comes through, like I said, we have a luxury of being an over 100-year-old company, but if I look back, that's exactly what we were taught when we were inducted into the company, right? And that's kind of gave you the confidence, and also kind of gives you the responsibility that you have when you're going to sell a product, right? So I think I guess it's years in the making.
Yeah. And sets the context for patient first, which is tough, because I can tell you there's a lot of organizations where that doesn't happen. With you in particular on the sales team, I know that you've had a sales team that have come from the pharma background or a dentist background, and also a sales team that comes from typical consumer personal care. And in terms of training them on patient centricity, or just to think of the patient first, how have these two been different?
Fundamentals are always the same. Whether the guy is working for Paytm or whether the guy used to work for a big pharma giant or used to work for a shampoo company. Fundamentals of good salesmanship remain the same. Or let me speak for myself, across different sectors, from Reckitt Benckiser to Cadbury to Tata Sky and Diageo across, but the fundamentals remain the same. So it's not difficult to train them. It's not difficult for them to adapt into, this is the business we are in, this is what we are selling. We are selling enablement to the doctor and not an item. When that happens, when you focus on the right messaging, these guys are smart enough. You just need a good quality salesman who picks up those messages. That's not really difficult, and it's irrespective of the sector you pick them up from. The guy has to be good.
Nice. In the doctor and the dentist space, and which is very often our primary customer that influences a lot on the brand. We often get it when we're marketing. We often get a few categories where there is a product that's present that actually is benefiting the patient, but sometimes with inertia or with something that they're more familiar with, there is this tendency to not necessarily take up a product that might benefit the patient more. And we tend to do a lot of patient-centric communication in terms of getting doctors to see that picture as well, in terms of focusing on the patient rather than the product. Have you all had examples of these categories where you've seen that the space is a little different right now, and you want to have a communication to the doctor which is changing things and getting a focus on the patient? Any examples on that?
So I think so that the two kinds of things, right? So there's one about the product in itself, okay, which the doctor or the surgeon in this case uses, and then there are obviously campaigns that we do which kind of bring focus to the benefits of the product and to sort of how they kind of look at, say, reducing complications, makes the surgery shorter, makes blood loss lesser, makes your total time under anesthesia lower, etc., and so on and so forth, which at the end of the day are very key patient benefits. And I think those become big differentiating factors of one product versus another. But then again, that is something which only the doctor understands, because the doctor is the user and then finally the decider as to what happens there. The other kind of marketing that also happens in our world is also really procedure marketing. So sometimes you also do come across different therapies which are beneficial for the patient, which could be newer and nascent at some point in time, although therapies evolve over time. And sometimes those are the therapies that you want to make patients more aware of, right? So one is when you make the doctor aware of, so the doctor picks up on that particular procedure or surgery, and you also want to make the patients aware of it so that they know that that is also an option for them. One example that we've worked obviously, Praful, with you is on bariatric surgery, right? So we do know that bariatric surgery is commonly known as a weight loss surgery, but it really has offers a lot more. It kind of offers a new lease of life, especially to those who are morbidly obese and have a large number of comorbidities, like whether it's diabetes or sleep apnea or joint pain or PCOD as well. And I think one of the campaigns which we've run with Medulla over many years has been about making patients aware of this particular treatment option amongst all of the others that are there, right? Just to make them aware that this exists. This has certain indications that it can provide for different kinds of ailments, etc., and talk to your doctor more about them. So it's never about pushing a kind of therapy or pushing a kind of treatment option, but it's just making them aware of the fact that there is an option. And if you do want to know more, then just go talk to your doctor about it. So we do a lot of that as well. I think bariatric surgery comes top of mind because that's something that my team has worked on. In the past, we've done similar for joint pain, etc. You see some campaigns by even a very interesting campaign by Merrill, which is an Indian medical devices company. They had MS Dhoni as the spokesperson, really, and we just talked about treatment zaruri hai, right? Irrespective of your ailment, just go see a doctor. So I think that's the other kind of patient-centric or patient-facing marketing that you do see a lot of device companies do.
No, in fact, on the campaign that you spoke about, the bariatric surgery campaign, what was very interesting is that patients who were considering bariatric surgery were very nervous about it. They'd heard so many negative things. They had lots of queries and concerns in their head. And what you did was you used testimonials from patients who'd been through the surgery.
That's right.
And they were so happy and confident about life after the surgery that when they were answering those questions, it completely changed the perspective of patients considering.
That's right. And I think none of it comes from, it all comes backed with a lot of patient research as well. So I think before we get into any sort of these large patient-facing campaigns, I think it's quite well rooted in patient research to know what is it that they want to know, what are the questions that are in their minds, who should answer which question, right? So for the simple example of this whole bariatric surgery campaign that we did was, we knew that patients wanted to know more about life after surgery. What came as a revelation for us from the patient research that we did was that the important role that the family plays in making that decision. So till before we did that research, all of our material used to be about the patient talking about how it changed their own lives. But this campaign brought in the whole family aspect as well, because again you realize that there's somebody else who's also an equally important decision maker. So I think it's important to be able to not just communicate one dimension of information, which is why just understanding what's the patient going through is very critical before making any campaign. And in all honesty, you can't be giving only one dimension of an information. It can't just be only this therapy is good and nothing else is good. Because at the end of the day, our jobs is to ensure that the patient is made more aware and is able to make a more informed decision. And I think that's where it should be. It's not about promoting one over the other. It's just about giving the patient a credible source of information about whatever ailment or surgery that they're looking for.
Yeah, I loved how you did that, because you literally just took patients and their families and put them in front of a camera and asked them the questions that other patients were asking. I remember one lady, one question on snoring, does that stop? And the lady stopped the husband and said, yes, it does.
That's
Very interesting stuff. Any examples that you have?
Examples in,
and even if the stuff that comes in from just putting the consumer first, from your experiences in consumer marketing, love to hear that.
Sure. I'll start with the experiences at Piscium and our products that we develop, and the interactions with the sales team and their in-market performance and our marketing message, etc. The easiest thing to sell are things which do not need explanation. For example, a dental alginate does not need too much of an explanation. Here's the product, it's good quality, the rest of the story the doctor, the dentist knows. And the sales person tends to pick up on those the fastest, because that that creates their incentives, that creates their a good quarter closing, etc. The more difficult ones are where there are concepts to sell, and typically that's in innovations. Let's say in our nano diamond burrs, there's a concept to sell. There are 5 points to say of why this is superior than your existing choices, and that existing choice the dentist would have learnt from his dental college days, and that you've got to move a paradigm. That requires a lot of hard work on the part of the founder, on the part of the salesman on the field, and also in terms of the communication. So again, coming to our interactions with medulla handling or this thing, if you see, we are more centric towards explaining the power of the nano diamond burr. We are not about, we hardly talk about what's happening to our alginates other than a pack shot on a website or on an Amazon. Our main focus or main concentration is on that product which requires some explanation, that which is a new innovation in the market, that's which is offering a new benefit to the patient or to the dentist. That requires more hard work, and simple things like communications, as in marketing communications, coming as a cover fire when your guys are on field. That acts as a that acts as a very big multiplier. Can't imagine that kind of sales, innovative product sales, happening without the air cover. In whichever way, it might be digital media, it might be within the allowable frameworks in our sector. That's one part of it. Secondly, when you pick up these kind of concepts and you want to explain to the doctor first, and then in my case it's the doctor who uses the device. It's like a scalpel to him, and then patient hardly comes to know what happened because he's under local anesthesia. It's just that to tell the doctor that this means that the patient will come for only for a fewer number of visits, and he'll get you more patients in turn, is an effort to remember that, to deliver that in market, to deliver that in communications, to deliver that across any form of contact with the dental community is something that has been requiring a special effort. I do wish that our innovations cross that journey and become a product where you don't need to sell much. Now that's exactly what we want to do. But yeah, until then it requires some hard work.
No, and as a marketing person, I think intuitively, even when you've been a founder of a business, right, most of the dental burrs talk about technical specs, and even the benefits are more technically it does ABC. I thought you were one of the first to actually do clinical trials and publish them in global leading journals. And in those clinical trials, you actually talk about patient benefits and patient prognosis. So to change the category from a technical category, from a inward looking category to a patient looking category is something you did quite intuitively right at the beginning.
And it comes easy for if you have a MRI device which is costing a few crores. intuitively you tend to work on these kind of products. But when it comes to a simple product like a dental burr, you say it's a trading item. Why would you explain so many things? But I've realized that there's a lot you can do when you're breaking into a simple space with a new set of benefits. There's a lot you can do, but yes, it takes hard work.
No, and for anyone who's watching this, I think this is a big learning out there. Just intuitively look at it as a marketing person, always put the patient first in that corner versus our product and what we have to achieve. I think that flip, this is a good case to help us.
And it generates conversations with the doctor. It lets you get a respectable foot in the door with the dentist. So yes, the moment you elevate the quality of conversations, either face to face or through air cover, your product stands a much better chance of success.
And it's quite true, and this is actually something that like a very senior surgeon once told me. Is like, your salesperson comes and tells me, you come and tell me, I have feature ABC. I have switched off already, right? I'm not even listening to it. But you come and tell me something like, what, I have a product which reduces blood loss by so much, or I have a product which reduces, which reduces total time under anesthesia by so much. It will pique my interest, and I will listen to it. So I think even even for the sales team, right? The job of the marketer is to also be able to figure those things out, right? And what are the 2 or 3 things that you want the sales team to tell the doctor so that it piques the doctor's interest. And if it also comes in, like I said, all of these things that I spoke about are in the end patient benefits, right? So I think it's very, very crucial for any marketer to figure out what are the 2 or 3 things from a patient angle, but are going to click for the doctor, right? And that should then become your leading pitch to the doctor, right? It can't just be I have XYZ features and that's why I take my product versus somebody else's. And I think I don't think it's failed in any time when you've kind of looked at it from that angle.
Very often I find that pharma or medical device marketing folks are meeting doctors when they're devising a campaign, building an insight, understand the challenge, but they don't always meet patients when they do that. So I think encouraging marketing folks to meet patients as well as doctors, have conversations.
So unfortunately, however, as a device company, you can't talk to the patients directly. So I don't think it's because also what happens is that the decision of which product to use finally lies with the doctor, right? For the simple reason that the patient today, if I'm undergoing a surgery, is quite unaware or is really not educated. I mean, I could be in this field and I'll be going for another surgery. I really don't know what's going on, right? And you really and rely solely and entirely on the doctor to give you that information or to choose for you rather. And as a device company, you cannot go and talk to the patient either. So I don't think the ability to talk to the patient is always there because of just the way the industry is regulated.
Especially in a device
Especially in a device sector. But to be able to understand scientifically what's the benefit to the patient is important, and that's typically where all the products really stem from, really. So yeah, I think be able to just understand that piece is important.
You're talking about experiences from different sectors that I have, and it's amazing how the process of insight generation, whether it's a tissue paper or a cola or an alcoholic drink or chocolate or a medical device, is just the same. It's absolutely the same, the process of generating an insight. And one of the most crucial steps over there is, as Debjani just said, is to be out there with your principal customer, because you don't know when he's going to enlighten you with that insight.
Absolutely.
And the more time you're spending with them, with your customers, just hearing what they're saying, their reactions, their complete engrossment into a procedure, and at that particular point of time, just observing that person and the patient at play. You may not ask the patient or you may not interview the patient, but just a stifling of his body parts. You get a lot of information just by staying silent, but in the duration of the procedure. Sometimes you go there to the doctor with, in our case in dental this thing, you can also go there with a model of a jaw or with an extracted tooth, or sometimes the dentist himself works on an extracted tooth with your tool and gives you a feedback. But until you don't do that, you aren't getting your sales pitch, you aren't understanding how your product has done, you don't know how to improve your product. You don't know how to make a version 2 of or version 3 of your product. So yes, it's just amazing how insights or the lack of them may decide success or failure of a device.
I think it's also as marketers, you just have to be very curious at all times, right? So I'll tell you what. So for example, like we will get a brochure, say, which is globally marketed, etc. So you have all the marketing material that is coming quite ready to you, right? And then you're wondering, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing as a marketer, because everything is here, right? I mean, I might have to change things to make it legally correct for India, but at the end of the day, it's also important to understand that what works, patient profiles in India are different from patient profiles outside of India, right? So if there are 3 features of a product, maybe feature 1 and 2 resonates with somebody in the US, but probably feature 3 resonates with the doctor here, because he's seeing a different kind of a patient as well. So I think it's very important to to talk to your customers within your local country as well, where you're selling, and just keep asking why. I think I've just understood, if someone comes in, when I'm talking to a doctor and they're like, okay, I like your product. So I'm like, so why do you like it? Okay, where in the procedure do you like it? What step do you like it at? Okay, is this the reason why you like it? What if you had something else instead? So I think just being able to be more curious in your own conversations, which is basically inside generation anywhere else, right? I think is very, very crucial.
Absolutely. In fact, we had one campaign we done for palliative care or end of life care, and that was very interesting, because the client brief is actually a consumer awareness campaign, because it already been working. This is the IAPC, the Indian Association of Palliative Care. They'd already been working with doctors and educating them on palliative care, but they felt that if consumers asked for it, then doctors would also follow through. But what we realized is that while doctors were aware of it, the medical system had trained them to such an extent to save lives that even when someone is terminally ill and the life cannot be saved, they end up sending a patient to an ICU without realizing that by sending a patient to an ICU, and this is where the insight came in, the last words are heard by the nurses and not the families. And then we used that insight to it actually worked perfectly well, both with families and patients and consumers, as well as with doctors.
That was an incredibly powerful campaign, by the way. Yes.
And therefore, if you find something that resonates with the doctor, rather the other way around, with the consumer or the patient, because the doctor is focused on that, exactly like you were saying, it kind of moves the needle all the way through very, very often. Tips that you'd love to leave pharma marketing folks with, device marketing folks?
So I think I know we're talking about the importance of being patient-centric. I think it's a no-brainer. Okay, you just have to be able to think from the perspective of your patient, because at the end of the day, even if you're thinking from the perspective of the doctor is still thinking from the perspective of the patient. So if you're able to solve for what the doctor is solving for, I think then your job is almost pretty much done there, right? And the other aspect which I think is very, very important, especially in devices, is because you have so many limited vehicles of communication. Just working closely with your sales team, being able, making them also see what you are seeing and what the doctor is seeing, and enabling them to communicate that in a very nice and crisp manner, like you would want in a TV commercial, or like you would want in any other kind of vehicle, communication vehicle, is also very, very crucial.
My last words in this particular panel discussion would be about imagining whether you are a salesman on field, whether you are a marketer sitting in the marketing team in some office. If we have complete clarity on where do you participate or what do you enable the doctor to do for the benefit of the patient, if you are absolutely clear again and again and again, and it becomes muscle memory, I think 90% of your job is done. You've got to be very clear. A patient is going to come to a doctor or a dentist. The dentist is going to make him better. The doctor is going to make him better. He's going to cure an illness. He's going to operate and relieve some problem of the patient. And here's where I'm going to help the doctor do it. The day it becomes muscle memory, for us as pharma people or a medical device people having a career in front of us, irrespective of where we stand in the hierarchy, or as product designers, as people who do quality checks, we just need to be very sure of what are we doing for the doctor while he's alleviating someone's pain. That's got to be top of mind.
Absolutely. Thanks, Malay. Thanks, Debjani. And if 10% of our viewers are now going to be driving, measuring, and tracking patient impact on their campaigns, I think it's a job well done for all of us. Thank you.
So much.